Hello viewers, and welcome to yet another edition of the Jctr Corner, a program brought to you by the Jctr for Theological Reflection in conjunction with Loyola TV. We all know that leadership is important in all sectors of society. A good leader is someone who nurtures and shepherds his or her followers. On the other hand, a good leader is someone who builds teamwork and has a vocabulary of we did it as opposed to I did it. And today we want to look beyond ordinary leadership as we discuss the topic of leadership for the common good. And in the studio today to help me discuss this particular important topic is Mr. Joseph Lungu from Jctr. Mr. Joseph Lungu is a program officer in the Faith and Justice program. Once again, this is the Jctr Corner, and my name is Annette Mlenga. Mr. Lungu, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
How is everything and how are you doing in this era of the COVID-19?
Well, we are doing fine so far. Okay. And we've been working from home. As you know, the office has been on lockdown.
Okay, so Mr. Lungu, first things first, what is the relationship between leadership and the common good?
Well, two things here, leadership on the one hand and the common good on the other hand. As you pointed out, a leader is one who nurtures, implying that leadership is a process. It's a process of engagement between the person entrusted with the leadership and the people who are being led, but also an engagement of frameworks that are put in place, legal framework, principles, and checks and balances. And leadership, it's not done in a vacuum or in a haphazard way. There has to be coherence and a certain specific objective to be attained. So in this sense, we are talking about the common good. The concept of the common good is not new to the 21st century. It's as old, I think it goes way back to the era of Socrates and Aristotle down the line. But the difference is that what we are talking about today is the common good as per the position of the church, which sums it up as a sum total of all the social conditions that permit people, either as individuals or collectively, to achieve the best in life in an affordable or simple manner without any constraint, which is opposed to the old tradition where in some cases, the common good was only meant for a certain class of people. If you are not a citizen, you are a woman, you are a slave, you could not access the common good. But today we're talking of the common good in broad sense, covering everybody who is born and endowed with rights.
So in a nutshell, how would you describe the common good concept? What exactly do we mean when we say we are talking about the common good? How do you define the word common good to the people out there?
Well, every person is entitled to live a life to the full. Every person has got the right to have their needs realized. So we're talking a transition from just not recognizing the needs, but to the actualization of those needs in an equitable way.
In other words, Mr. Lungu, what you're trying to say is that everyone should benefit from something that is of the society.
Yes, the general society, commonwealth or common benefit. Individually and collectively, people should benefit from it.
As we talk about benefiting, would you say that in Zambia we have leadership that is concerned with itself bringing about the common good for everyone else in the country or everyone else in the society?
Well, the Zambian landscape is broad. However, it has a cultural background which nurtures hospitality, on which the Christian heritage has been built on. So basically, the concept of service is there. However, the political trends that have been developing together with the consumerist culture that is globally but is equally affecting Zambia, we have seen certain trends developing where leadership is no longer viewed as a service but as a way to personal aggrandizement or personal gain. So we see this in the way in the public sphere, we choose leadership, or people offer themselves to serve as leaders. For example, our political system of electing leaders is in such a way that a person comes to market themselves. We give them the mandate for 5 years. They go, there's no engagement, there's no process until at the end of that 5 years, when they want now another mandate, that's when they come to
Mr.
market
Lungu, help
themselves.
me understand something here.
Yes.
How then would you differentiate ordinary leadership that I just mentioned earlier to say today we're going beyond looking at ordinary leadership as we go further to just look at leadership for the common good? So what then could be the difference between ordinary leadership and leadership for the common good?
Well, like the way, let's say, an army general approach leadership will be different from the way when we are talking now collectively as a society. Society has got resources. In Zambia, we talk of public resources, and somebody has to take responsibility of those resources, and in turn has to lead using those resources for the benefit of everybody. You see, when you create the atmosphere where everybody benefits, you are not creating charity, but most often we view the culture, the trend that is there, is whereby when a leader does something, it looks as if that leader is doing us a favor, when actually the leader is saving, is simply facilitating what already belongs to the people, and which the people should do access in the simplest terms.
I heard you talk about the military kind of leadership and all that. So my other question would be, my concern really is, would you say then that for there to be common leadership or leadership for the common good, would you say someone would need some form of professionalism to act on the common good basis of leadership? Well,
not that leaders have to be trained professionally. There's no curriculum or syllabus for that.
Okay.
You know, leaders, people emerge, they present themselves, they are formed into, there's no specific syllabus. However, in order for a person to lead in the delivery of the common good, there is need for professional engagement.
When you say there is need for professional engagement, what exactly are you talking about? What exactly do you mean in that line?
In the delivery of public goods, a politician is not omnipotent. He doesn't know everything. He's entrusted with office, but for that office to function, there has to be professionals who serve under that office and make sure the leadership is functional. The leadership follows certain agreed tenets, certain ethics, and it doesn't lose track of the objective of why the leader is there. Basically, like here in Zambia, civic leaders, the politicians, they articulate the policies, but actualization of those policies into deliverables depends on the availability of professionals now who work according to their different sectors.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Lungu. Well, viewers, we are on the Jctr corner, and today we are looking at leadership for the common good. In the studio, I am joined by Mr. Joseph Lungu from Jctr. Mr. Lungu, I just wanted to find out something. You know, the role of professional leadership play an important role in ensuring that public duty takes center stage. But this is quite the opposite, because we know that most of the leaders would rather put the private part of their work at most first instead of the public interest of the people. What could be your take on that one?
Well, a profession, any professional, any field has got two aspects, which are actually complementary, which I would say they are just two faces of one and the same coin. You have the private aspect and the public aspect. Yeah. For example, if I'm trained to be a nurse, my private duty will be to build on my career, make benefit out of them, promotion, emoluments, and the like, stick to duty. But sometimes I may overlook the fact that actually getting employed is not the end of me being trained as a nurse. Public health is. So while I'm employed in the same way, my being employed should be of benefit to society. So this is where now my duty to society comes in, so that my performance, my professional performance as a professional should have the longer objective of serving the public, while privately I'm serving my private duty as an employee, either of a private entity or in public service.
Okay, Mr. Lungu, I know that there's this particular importance of organized participation of professional men and women in leadership. Let's say we have this particular group of people in our society, the professionals. What could be their importance to the development of our country?
Well, they, like I mentioned, an articulated policy cannot be actualized unless there are people trained in what the police says has to be done. You cannot enhance education if there are no professionally trained teachers. In the same vein, you cannot enhance health if there are no trained professional health workers. So it is here where the challenge for people to develop a culture where they go beyond the personal gain from their profession to the public good, where everybody else now
should benefit
from one's profession.
Okay, interesting, Mr. Lungu. Thank you so much for that wonderful explanation. Well, viewers, for now we shall go on a short break. Please don't go away. Stay tuned and see you on the other side.
To advertise on this program and enjoy amazing introductory rates, please call us on +260 211 290959 or +260 211 290912 or +260 953 538 000, or send us an email at loyolazam@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Jctr Corner, a program brought to you by the Jctr for Theological Reflection in conjunction with Loyola TV. On the program today, we are looking at leadership for the common good. And in the studio, I am joined by Mr. Joseph Lungu from Jctr. Mr. Lungu, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Lungu, under common good, what should professionals or leaders do to ensure that the livelihoods of other people, by this I mean maybe the less privileged in society, are catered for? What are they supposed to do in order for them to ensure that their lives are improved?
Well, when we look, for instance, when we look at the public service delivery, it is easier to point a finger, let's say, at the government for incompetence or short works. But each act of incompetence that is manifested by the government is actually a reflection of the professionals that work under that governance system. You see, I'll give a practical example. Of late in Zambia, we have seen this trend where ministers, permanent secretaries, and very recently the mayor going into the public to carry out chores and duties for which there are professional people employed to do. To a simple mind, that might appear to be the government is working, the government is effective. But in practical terms, this is an indication of a breakdown in the chain of command.
Okay.
You see, why should a constable draw a salary if the minister can do his job? So we have a situation where there's wastage of resources because certain people are drawing a salary simply by being employed, but they're not doing their job. So you have to get the entire top command to come and do the job. So if the minister can do that job, why not retire those people, free those resources to go to another sector that is badly needed? You see? So most often when there's mediocrity among the professionals, then government stalls and government cannot deliver. This is a situation now where you come, a person whose duty is simply to articulate policy now comes on the ground to implement the same policy. So that trend that has been obtaining in Zambia doesn't reflect well on the professionals who are engaged and paid to carry out certain duties for the common good. And most often, the people, the public, and most especially the vulnerable and the poor depend much on the professionals who are in public service for their to be saved and to access goods. So if there's a breakdown in professionalism there, they suffer most than other sectors of society.
Well, Mr. Lungu, I was following your explanation very well, so I would like to find out something that just got to my mind. Would you say then that there's supposed to be some form of qualities between professionalism and leadership in our country? And if so, what are some of those qualities that you would like to point out, and how would you explain those same qualities?
Well, yes, there are certain qualities, certain parameters that we would expected to see in professionals. For example, I would expect people in the professional sector to have an informed vision. Once you have an informed vision, you have a longer view of what is coming. You understand the situation, you understand the circumstances that are obtaining or that surround that situation.
Okay.
In Zambia, we have created a culture of always complaining. Yes, it is true, professionals sometimes work with inadequate resources and equipment. But within that environment, you can make the best of the little that you have than to give that as an excuse for not being professional. You see? So in the same vein, the example I gave, should it have taken a whistleblower for people to know that there's racism in a certain quarter when routine inspections by people who draw salaries to do those jobs could have brought that to light, and that issues should have been dealt through the normal line of command than to take the entire top leadership to go and do a job for which there's a clerk employed to do that job. Then we need also affiliation. People should be affiliation to the board of ethics that guides that profession. They should also be affiliated to the community to understand the dynamics of the community which they serve, so that they know the strata of the social strata of the people in there, so that you tailor your action to suit people without disadvantaging other people, especially the poor. Then we talk also of resilience. Resilience can also be connected to the first one of informed vision. A professional is not one who simply quits. It's one who adapts when they face challenges. You see, like right now, the biggest challenge Zambia is facing is this corona virus that has affected a lot of sectors. Should we put down tools and say we can't handle, or say there are, no budget allocation was made for COVID? Within little that you have, in your resilience, you can adapt and still save the common good. Then we should have social and collective struggle, which emanates from resilience. We work as a team, we approach issues collectively, and we don't approach communities as messiahs, but we seek to empower communities, so that once we are not in the communities can take up issues themselves and confront them. We should also take into mind, sometimes as a professional, the profession can get to your head and you may disregard people. Sometimes even a person who is uneducated could have a valid idea. So we have to respect the rights of everybody and give each one a chance to express their views and what they think could be the approach to the situation. Then there's emotional reflexivity. Empathy is important, and compassion. Don't save somebody because you look down on them. save people because you understand their plight, you understand their situation. There's also need between to balance power and privilege. Sometimes power can get in the way of saving the people. Those of us who go to public health institutions, we experience this, where because you are poor, you cannot complain to short service because the nurse can tell you you see, such approaches should not have room when we are professionals and are helping in the attainment of the common good.
Okay, Mr. Lungu, maybe before you continue with those qualities, let me just talk to my viewers out there. I know someone maybe is just joining me right now. Well, viewers, this is the Jctr Corner, and in case you've just joined us, you're welcome to the program. Today we're looking at leadership for the common good, and in the studio I'm joined by Mr. Joseph Lungu from Jctr. Right now, Mr. Lungu is just taking us on the qualities of professionalism and leadership. Mr. Lungu, before I catch you, you're just explaining these other qualities that professionals and leaders should have in order to serve our people better. Could you just carry on with the explanation?
Well, I mean, integrity and courage is important also. Yeah? People at all costs should act ethically. It has become common knowledge to say what causes corruption is low emoluments or lack of incentives at the workplace. No, you don't have to compromise the ethics of your profession or the quality of your delivery simply because of money. You are primarily trained to deliver, and by consequence you get paid. But sometimes we get this picture where people think they're primarily employed, then secondarily that's when they deliver. So if my emoluments delay today, then I'm not going to save. No, it shouldn't be like that. Then this should not get in the way of high quality service. No matter what the situation, a professional should always deliver to the best of their abilities. Then there's also the question of assurance and confidence. Lay people, common people trust professionals because they say those people studied, are trained, they can do the job. And we have to sustain that. People trust the professionals, and professionals should deliver in accordance with the trust people put in them. They should also act with a view to changing the situation, not just making it sustainable, but where necessary, change it for the better, so that the people we save tomorrow, they should be better than they were yesterday.
Yeah.
Then there's also knowledge and skill. This is fundamental.
Yeah.
Then you're going to be it the private sector or the public sector. You have to be knowledgeable of what you are going to do. On top of that, you have to hone your skills so that you perform to the best of what is expected of you. On top of that, you have to understand the local environment in which you are operating. You can only translate your knowledge into action if you understand the people. So that means you have to be critical, you have to be evaluative, you have to be imaginative. You have to lead people into finding solution. You shouldn't move in to be the messiah who tells people this is what to do. No.
Quite a handful, Mr. Lungu. Thank you so much for those qualities. Now, my question would be, would you say that in Zambia we do have professionals or leaders who possess those qualities that you're just from explaining?
Well, I would say
if we do, then to what extent would you say we have those people?
Zambia's competent tertiary educational system that trained people, that produce professionals. Yeah? But the challenge sometimes comes when people go into the field. A person can go there with all the zeal to go and work, then he finds a work culture that does not allow them to deliver. Earlier on, I mentioned of mediocrity. Mediocrity, this is a culture where you just perform, but you don't think of, should I raise it to another level than simply this level on which it's been instructed me to perform. Then there's also a culture that is coming up where sometimes people go into field more because that field it is lucrative than that they feel they can perform better in that field.
According to explanation, Mr. Lungu, you're saying that all these people or the professionals that we have are looking at the kind of money that they will get at the end of the day as opposed to what they're supposed to offer to the people out there. Now, my question would be, as Jctr or as you, Mr. Lungu, what would be your recommendation as a way of moving forward to ensure that maybe quality leadership and professionalism for the common good is offered to the people out there?
It is true that sometimes the prevailing leadership and governance in a country might not allow an environment where professionals can really excel and deliver to the best of their abilities. But within that, somebody can call to resilience and perform to the best of their abilities. Like I mentioned, there are people who go into certain sectors on a rebound. You wanted to be an accountant, it didn't work out, then you land into nursing or teaching simply because that's where I've found a notch. But there isn't money in there. So because of the frustration of your expectations in environment, then you don't perform to the best of your abilities. So the best recommendation is people should do an introspection, good reflection and discernment, and go into sectors in which they feel they are called than go into sectors where they are constrained to go.
Would that be your recommendation at the end of the day?
Yes.
Okay.
Because even when we cry, it's easier to say there's corruption in Zambia, the government is corrupt. The government is in person, but it's made up, it's an aggregate of individuals. It's individual persons who perform corruption. It's like people, one of the areas where there's a huge complaint of corrupt practices, it's the health, education sector, and the law enforcement. Why? Simply because maybe sometimes people go there not because they've got the zeal for law enforcement, they've got the zeal to deliver education, or they've got the zeal to nurture health, but it's a field that was open, then you go there, it has loopholes, then you abuse it to your personal gain at the expense of public common good.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Lungu. Unfortunately, we'll have to come to the end of the program because time is not with us. Thank you so much, viewers, for having stayed with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Lungu, for your time. I really appreciate your coming and I really appreciate your wonderful explanation towards this topic. This has been the Jctr Corner, and today we're looking at leadership for the common good. From me, Annette Mlenga, and the technical team behind the scenes, I say thank you so much. It's goodbye for now.